So next up, we're going to have a session on meaningful patient engagement in action. So while we're setting up, I already invite to the stage my fellow panelists. So Christine LaRose, she's a bladder cancer patient and patient support and advisory leader at Beat Bladder Cancer Australia. So we are very international here, not just European. Thank you. Next, please, if you can take a seat, just leave the last one, the furthest one to me. Aysem Oeznel, she's the patient partnership leader at Roche. And Maddalena Benivento, who's associate program director at the Synergist. I'll just jump up from here. Okay, so we have about 45 minutes for our discussion, and today we are really focusing on looking at what meaningful patient engagement is, how do we view it from different perspectives, and what are some of the practical examples that are actually taking place both in different organizations, how we're engaging patients ourselves as patient organizations, but also how patients and patient organizations are engaged as partners from the industry perspective, in various multi-stakeholder models as well. But before we begin, I wanted to also share with you a new project, just briefly introduce it to you, that Hein actually has briefly touched on earlier today at the policy session. Let me just so I don't drop anything. Which is called EU Be Clear. So this is actually our first EU-funded project by the World Bladder Cancer Patient Coalition. So it's a really big milestone, a big step for us as an organization. And this was an idea that was born between us and European Association of Urology when there was a grant opportunity coming from EU for Health program on on health literacy. So it's a very specific target for this program. And what is amazing about it as well is that it's bladder cancer specific. So actually the entire project is about bladder cancer health literacy. So what does Be Clear actually mean? So in a true European EU-funded project fashion, there's acronyms that sometimes is difficult to decipher, but they like easy names. So it spells out as Bladder Cancer Literacy for All, Advancing Knowledge and Care in Europe. So in this project, as I've mentioned, EAU is the main leader of this project, but it's a multi-stakeholder project with different organizations. And what I've mentioned at the very beginning of this day, but also that we heard throughout the sessions, that collaboration is how we see our way of moving forward and making a difference in bladder cancer space. And so this is another example. So Association of European Cancer Leagues is a partner, Wonka Europe, which is an association of family doctors, Erasmus Medical Center of the Erasmus University in the Netherlands. And in addition to us, there are 3 national urological societies representing urologists in the country. So in Greece, in Poland, and Hungary. And one of the reasons why these specific countries are partners in this project is that these are the countries with the highest burden of bladder cancer in Europe, and with still very low awareness of bladder cancer. And so that's how the idea was born, that we kick off this project with a focus on these 3 countries, and all of the activities are being developed in these 3 languages in addition to the English one. And the aim of the project itself is to address, this is a very nice photo of our kickoff meeting, which we just had recently last month. So it's a very fresh project. Nothing has happened really yet. We're already sort of on the way to kick this off since last month. So it's on addressing critical disparities in cancer awareness, prevention, and care across the EU, with a focus, as I said, on the 3 target countries, but also in English for the rest of the countries. and to deliver and validate a set of tools and proven practices that can serve as a blueprint, an example for future health literacy campaigns across the EU, but also with the view of expanding that beyond Europe, and reducing bladder cancer incidence and mortality, aligning with the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, and cancer prevention strategies as well. And so how are we going to do that? I think it's quite unique. I've put a sort of the work packages that the project contains, that's sort of the structure, and the ones that you see in orange are the ones that we are leading as the World Bladder Cancer Patient Coalition. And so these are on citizen and patient education and awareness and communication. But we do this in tandem at the same time with what European Association of Urology is doing, and it's focused a lot on awareness and education, but on shared decision-making. So the shared decision-making it's the biggest part of the work that we're doing across the work packages, is developing specific educational models on non-muscle invasive bladder cancer and muscle invasive bladder cancer, for patients, but also on physicians, for urologists and other healthcare professionals. And so the idea, I think, is quite unique that we are developing this in parallel. So it's not something that doctors have developed, that we have developed, and then there's sometimes misalignment. We've heard about that, there's different perspectives always. So the idea here, it was really to co-develop this together at the same time so we can promote shared decision-making in bladder cancer care, and that we build up the capacity to do so from healthcare professional perspective, and that we do the same for the patient community. And all encompassing, there's awareness and citizen education as well about more general symptoms and risk factors of bladder cancer. And so as we kick this off, there's really a lot of opportunities for our patient community, especially to get involved. And I said the sustainability element is a very big one in this project. So beyond these sort of 4 languages, we want to set a standard in a way together that can be replicated in different countries. So getting input from as many countries as we can means we can do more to put out these validated outputs for use as quickly as possible at the end of this project. So this will be a 3-year project, so you'll be hearing about this much more as we go on. But with that, I would like to now move on to our panelists. So thank you so much for listening as well. We will start with you, Christine, what was it? What did I want to ask you? Oh, there you go. So you had a personal experience, obviously, with bladder cancer that you would like to share, and that led you to the work that you do now at Beat Bladder Cancer Australia. So we'd like to kick off and to obviously hear about that and the amazing work that Beat Bladder Cancer Australia is doing.
Thank you. So I'm Christine LaRose, and I am the Patient and Support Lead for Beat Bladder Cancer Australia, and I'm also a bladder cancer survivor. So I thought I'd just start today and share a little bit about my personal journey. I was diagnosed in 2017 with high-grade muscle-invasive bladder cancer. I was only 49 at the time. I was fit, I was healthy. I had none of the risk factors generally associated with bladder cancer. I've never even tried a cigarette. So my bladder cancer diagnosis really came out of the blue. My only symptom was blood in my urine. It wasn't a lot, and it wasn't all the time. Initially, I was diagnosed with a UTI, and we've heard that today, that is quite common, and I find that also in the work that I do with Beat, that there are many women in my position, my age group, that initially get diagnosed with a UTI. In fact, I was diagnosed with several UTIs before I was referred to a urologist for further investigation. So I went to the urologist, we had some further scans, cystoscopy, and it was confirmed I had high-grade muscle-invasive bladder cancer, and it was very aggressive. So it was only 4 weeks after my diagnosis that I then had a radical cystectomy, and I had my bladder removed. I was lucky that I was a candidate for a neobladder, and I know we've seen a picture of that today, but for anyone in the room that doesn't know what that is, they basically take about 55 centimetres of your bowel, your ileum, and they create a new internal bladder, and you use muscle control to operate that bladder as you would your regular bladder. And everything happened for me. It was so quick. It was, sort of all within 4 weeks. And that really has an impact not only on me as a person, but on my entire family. You know, we went from regular family mode to survival mode overnight. So now, you know, 8 years on, I'm living with my neobladder. I call it my new normal. It's not perfect, but it works for me, and I really do feel lucky that I'm still here today. Now, when I was diagnosed, there was no informational support specific for bladder cancer patients in Australia. And, you know, I would have loved to have spoken to someone that was around my age, that had a neobladder, and seen what their life was like. So I became involved with BEAT. And BEAT was founded in 2018, a year after my diagnosis, by Adam Lynch in memory of his wife Anna. And Anna and I were going through treatment around about the same time, and that's how I found out about BEAT. So I've been involved in BEAT since it was founded. And we are an Australian patient advocacy charity, and we operate right across Australia. Can you do the next slide? Yep. We have a large and active patient community. And we also have a highly regarded health advisory team, and both of those teams are involved in all of our projects and our initiatives. So my role is the patient and support lead, so I manage all of our support projects. And, you know, as our patient community has grown, so has the need for more support and the requirements. And so my role has evolved over the years as well. So what does patient support look like at BEAT? Okay, so our purpose is to provide the highest quality bladder cancer care and support for all. And one of our main focus areas is information and support for the bladder cancer community. So we have several support programs that we run at BEAT. You know, we realised that when BEAT was founded that there were many people across Australia that were feeling isolated and alone. Bladder cancer is a long and lonely journey. So we started with a monthly support group. We started with that as an online support group, and that way we can reach the entire country. Everyone can just jump on and be part of that group. And it has grown. It's a very successful group. We regularly get 40 plus patients join that support group every month. Last month we had 46 patients. It was a record. And our patients are really involved in that group. We run that group in two parts. So the first part, we have a health professional come along and give a presentation, and then our patients can ask questions to those health professionals. And then we have private facilitated discussion with our members. So our members feel really connected with each other, but they also feel a little bit more educated about their disease. And then along with our monthly support group, we also provide one-to-one support. And then, can you do the next slide? And then we also support our bladder cancer community by the information and support that is available on our website. And can you do the next one? On our website, we have loads of information, so our patients can feel, you know, much more informed and be active participants in their care. So we have sample questions that have been developed by patients for patients, so that when they go to appointments, they can have informed discussions with their medical teams. We even have treatment pathways that they can use to see the treatment options that are available in Australia, the ones that are available on the PBS, the ones where there are patient access programs available, and that way that they can really be active participants in their care and have those quality discussions with their medical team.
Thank you so much, Christine, for sharing the work, the amazing work that you're doing at BEAT. And I know that a part of the discussion will also touch on more about this. Aysem, I would like to come to you next and hear a little bit about industry's evolving role in co-creating with patients. You have no slides, right? No.
Thank you very much, Alex. It's an honor for me to be invited to this platform. I hope there are a few elements that you can learn from me, but of course there are a lot of things that I can learn from you. So thank you for being passionate about advocating for bladder cancer. I know you're all doing this with very limited funds, so thank you very much for what you're doing. I have no slides, that is correct. if I had slides, I would be here in 5 years because we have this very rigorous approval process to get our slides approved before I can present. So I'm here representing myself. I'm here representing my company. And I'm wearing this tag with the black chain on it, but I want you to know that we're all patients or caregivers, and if we are not, we're super lucky. So we are all here with the spaces, and the discussions will evolve around this. So co-creating with patients. So patient engagement was something like, good to have, you guys are a very cute department in pharma. But right now, this is not the case. We are really involved end-to-end in decision-making. We involve patients, patient advocates, experts, all the way from phase 1 trials, these are the early trials, all the way to access to launching. We are there. We're not a check-the-box exercise anymore. How you are the external advocates, we are the internal advocates. So we are bridging the patient organizations and the great work of the patient advocates with our internal teams. So we're not producing a product or a medicine that's good for all. We want to personalize it, we want to understand the challenges, and this is what we're trying to do. A very concrete example is, maybe I'll refer to it, a bladder cancer trial where we had Lydia Makarov. She was on the steering committee, sitting with investigators, involved in the decision-making, and that's how it should be. It's not just, let's have some of the insights from the patients, and let's see if we can reflect it in the next trial. No. We need to reflect it in this trial. What are these elements that are very important? So it has been evolving in a great step, I would say. The teams were approaching us when they had recruitment problems for the clinical trials. And we're telling them, you're very late, you approached us very late, you should have come in phase 1 when you were designing the trial so we can help you address these recruitment challenges. Because recruitment challenges are happening because they're not listening to the patients. They're not understanding what the patient's needs are. So these are some of the things, but I'm here to understand and maybe have a dialogue with you if I can explain some of the questions that we have. And maybe I just want to emphasize the importance of multi-stakeholder involvement. We cannot do everything as industry. You cannot do everything as patient organizations. We have to be together in the same boat and look at it together. So I turn then to Maddalena, or you want to introduce?
Yes, but it's great that you mentioned that example of how early we worked on that trial, and we can maybe touch on it in a little bit more detail afterwards as part of the discussion. Maddalena, so I'd like to come to you next and learn a little bit more about your work with patient-focused medicines development and at the Synergist, and overall on how we define and advance meaningful patient engagement. You have a couple of slides, I think, right?
Yes.
I can either control them for you or I can give this to you.
It's okay. We just use this for now. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Christine, Aysem, for sharing this panel with us. So it is really an honor for me to be here, as Aysem was saying, not only because of the meaningful work that you're doing, but also because of the societal impact you're having. And this is basically the link that I'm here to bring here today, because I represent the Synergist. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it is a global nonprofit organization that aims to solve complex societal issues through multi-stakeholder collaboration. We incubate different programs, and patient-focused medicine development is one of them. Why? Because healthcare is one of the most complex environment, most complex sector that we are facing nowadays. And in order to really advance progress in that, we thought that it is impossible to do that without patients. So that is basically the mission of PFMD, to solve and co-create healthcare solutions for patients, but with patients in the way, in the process. Our goals are really trying to address these objectives revolves around three main focuses. So the first one, it really focused on making patient engagement real and meaningful. And what do we mean by meaningful patient engagement? We mean an engagement that has an impact, that has an outcome, that has a result. It doesn't need to be positive. We learn more from failures than from successes, actually. And this is the first piece that we try to address, trying to clarify what do we mean when we talk about patient engagement, how we do that in an efficient way, how do we do that in a way that we don't overburden the patient community that we are working with, and how do we take the insights that we learn from this community to the policymakers, to the regulators, to the key decision points that we need to take during our healthcare pathway, both in the drug development process and at the point of care. So that is the first area we work on. The second one is really linked to the community and to what has been repeated over and over again from the beginning of this panel. We cannot make change alone. We need to collaborate, and there is a need to have this multi-stakeholder collaboration by design. The strength of our organization is actually the community that drives it. And this is basically what we're trying to do, is to keep this community alive, is to interconnect the community and to go beyond the border of a specific disease, of a specific therapeutic area. That's why PFMD is disease agnostic. We work on solutions that can be that are replicable and scalable, potentially. The third piece, it touches very much on the need of embed patient voice in the protocols, talking about, and this is of course not appropriate word, talking about laws and policy changes. We need to make sure that patient voice is there from the beginning. And in order to make change happen, we need to design and mandating patient engagement, mandating patient experience data when it comes to key healthcare decisions that are happening in the space. So this is a little bit the new perspective that we are bringing to the organization for the upcoming 5 years. This is the recently approved new strategy, so it is quite recent. And those are our mainly objectives. You will see some others topics, let's say, in the blue box. Those are really topics, areas of actions that we believe are essential to make this change happen. So the first one is around the connection within patient engagement and patient experience data, making sure that when we produce PED, patient experience data, patients are involved in the design of that, in the generation, in the dissemination of those analyses, of those data, because patients are the only ones that are able to contextualize the data because of the lived experience that they have. The second piece is around the intelligence. All those interactions, all those experiences generate a lot of insights. How do we streamline the dissemination of those insights? How do we avoid that the same patient has to fill out the same survey over and over again? And we disseminate this intelligence and we create a benefit that is like systemic. Other two areas are around fostering a diverse representation. We need to bring all the different voices at the table, also the ones that don't have the capacity to sit at the table. We need to create the condition for those people to contribute. And the last one is of course, around digital AI. How can we really make this happen in an increasing complexity or simplification sometimes that digital solutions bring. So this is brief, hopefully.
Super, thank you. I'll just change to our holding slide. So thank you so much for your opening statement. So we'll dive into discussion, but first I would like to invite also the audience that you are very welcome to participate and start thinking about your questions to our wonderful panel about patient engagement. And I'll come back to you after my initial question. So Christina, I'd like to come back to you on what makes patient engagement truly meaningful and how can we move beyond symbolic involvement more towards genuine partnership?
So from my experience, not all patients want to engage in the same way. So we need to treat them as individuals and we need to treat them with empathy. They want to be involved in their care. They want to be involved in the entire journey from diagnosis through treatment and then life after treatment and living with bladder cancer. You know, through a patient's lived experience, they become experts in the process. So they know how it feels, they know the impact it has on their daily life and the impact it has on their family. So we really need to listen to what is really important to the patient and act on that. And one way at BEAT that we both engage our patient community and support our patients is via our one-to-one peer support program. And we've just recently rolled out a new formalised model of our peer support program. And in this model, we have patients from our patient community as peer support volunteers, and they provide support to a newly diagnosed patient that's come to us and has requested support. So it's a formalised model. Our volunteers are educated, they get a handbook, they understand the role, they understand the boundaries of the role, and they have hints and tips on how to engage with a newly diagnosed patient. The patients that are our volunteers, they just share their lived experience. They don't provide any medical advice or help make any medical decisions. And we've found that, both parties find the benefits of this new model. So the volunteers, they want to give back. They feel like they're doing something good for the bladder cancer community. And then our new patients that have come to us requesting support, they feel more informed and feel that they can navigate their care just that little bit better.
Thank you. And I would like to add as well in that perspective, I think, Aysem, what you've mentioned that, it's no longer a tick box exercise, and from industry perspective, we get patient engagement role has evolved massively, but at the same time, it hasn't everywhere as well. So we are working obviously with a lot of organizations as partners, and we see a variety of approaches in patient engagement, some more advanced than others, but it's still, I think there is an element in not just industry, by the way, but any researchers, even from a sort of academic perspectives. We sometimes get requests that are coming in very late, where you can really feel that it's sort of a tick box exercise. I think an interesting example as well with the EU-funded project. So no particular project, because this happens not just to us, but I know more broader in cancer patient community in Europe, that for EU-funded projects, patient organizations have to have a role in your project proposals. And so sometimes we will receive a request to get involved in a project that is fully developed, and they forgot that they need to involve patients. And so then you just don't have a role, you don't have a way to shape how that project will look like. And I think for us as a coalition, it's also an important part to work with our member organizations and wider patient community to show what the real standards are, how to engage in these situations, that our patient community is not taking advantage in those situations. So it is much broader, I think, across the board, but it is changing. So at least, in the last, say, almost a decade that I've been working in patient advocacy, I've seen a big shift, right? So, Maddalena, I would like to come back to you, and then Aysem is sort of posing a same question to both of you. What are some of the practical approaches and frameworks that could help organizations embed meaningful patient engagement across their activities? So it could be research, policy, care delivery, we have different perspectives. So I would like to hear from you, Maddalena, first, and then Aysem.
Sure. Thank you. So this has been, I think, the focus of PFMD for the first 10 years. So we have co-created with patients and with the other stakeholders that are part of our coalition a set of different frameworks and tools in order to make patient engagement meaningful. So qualitative patient engagement with a concrete outcome and a long-term impact. Among the different resources that we have developed, one of the key milestones was around the patient engagement quality criteria, reflecting some of the key standards of good engagement. We are talking about, for example, the transparency in communication with the patient community, making sure that they are informed, that there are the capabilities around the table to really make this engagement meaningful. On the other hand, there are other elements to it, such as the continuity of the engagement and the sustainability piece. In order to have meaningful patient engagement, you need to have like a long-term pathway, a long-term partnership also in mind. You cannot just engage once. You need to think, okay, what's the next step? Keep them engaged, keep them informed, and improve. Create that feedback loop that allows you to make impact and change in the specific patient engagement activity you're running, but also to improve the next one you're actually working towards. So this is, let's say, a cornerstone of the patient engagement management suite. I also had some slides with a QR code if they want to navigate through that. But there are like other elements to it. Another big area of focus for us has been around legalities, compliance, fair remuneration. So here you can find, for example, some of the key standard contracts that you can implement when engaging with patients, but also as a patient, like what are your rights? What are the duties and key elements of your engagement? This provides a framework that is transversal. Of course, it needs to be adapted, but it's a good starting point. On the other hand, another question that we heard a lot was, what is a fair remuneration for patient engagement? Like, what's the hourly rate? And here we have co-created a resource that is accessible solely, it is accessible by anyone, but especially for patient advocates, provide you an average hourly rate per country that allows you to have like better tools when it comes to sit at the table and understanding the weight of your contribution and your value. And there are like a lot of different resources and different frameworks that are existing and that are implemented outside. But the key piece is, as was said already before, is start this conversation before, have early engagement, co-creating together with the patient community the protocols, the standards, the ambitions of the specific initiative you want to pursue. Otherwise, it will be perceived as a tick box exercise anyways. So it's also the way you adopt those frameworks that make the success of them.
Thank you. And Aysem, what's your perspective on these practical approaches?
Thank you. Since I have Maddalena with us from PFMD, maybe I can add on to one of the PFMD projects that we are partnering together. Again, this is where the multi-stakeholder engagement is very important, because industry or you may not be able to achieve what you want, but if we put our strengths together, we can make a voice. I will just give you a very concrete example. I believe most of the industry pharma companies, they have their own clinical trial websites where patients or caregivers can get in and take a look at which clinical trial may work for them. But can we really expect patients to go to every single pharma website looking for their trial? No. So here in PFMD, what we are co-creating here is a neutral platform where patients can get in, put in their data. If it's possible that they can also include some of their criteria so they're not upset when they're excluded, when they see this very long list of exclusion criteria. And thereby, they can get a list of all potential trials where they can participate. So the problem is not just, okay, the clinical trial site is in the city, it's not in the suburbs. The problem is, I don't know what trial I can participate in. There are so many websites out there. There's so many technical knowledge, technical information that I cannot understand. What can I do? So it's one of these platforms now we are co-creating together to create like a neutral platform. It's not like run by pharma. It's run by an independent, trustable organization with a list of potential clinical trials. Of course, that's a dream, but this is just an example of how powerful a multi-stakeholder engagement can achieve.
And is there a sort of a timeline where this ambition is expected to be materialized, or is it still early stages?
I cannot give information much about it, but it will definitely take longer than my slide approval, so more than 5 years.
Okay, so it's a long-term view. So I would like to come back to the audience. If you have any question to anyone on the panel, you can raise your hand, and Angelina will come to you with the microphone. We have also quite a few of our industry partners in the audience, so if any of you would like to share how you approach the subject of patient engagement in your organizations, you're very welcome to briefly do that if you would be interested. Same goes also to our patient advocates who are working with industry as well, so maybe there are some examples you'd like to share. Any volunteers? Everyone's very shy. Yes, Nicole. Of course, the microphone's coming to you.
Thanks, Alex.
If you can introduce yourself as well.
Oh, sure. Nicole Dixon, Johnson & Johnson, Global Medical Affairs, Patient Advocacy. Christine, thank you for sharing your personal journey with bladder cancer and how it's elevated your passion for advocacy through BEAT. Just curious to learn of patients that find their way to BEAT. What are the greatest needs that you're trying to address? And can you share maybe some of the needs that you're working on in developing new programs or new initiatives? Like, how is BEAT evolving to better meet the needs of the community? Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the question. Our patient community is ever growing, and they come to BEAT looking for support, looking for information. I think support is a big one. I think, patients need to feel that they're not alone. They need to talk with others that are experiencing a similar journey. They are also looking for information about new treatment options or even just, what treatment is right for them. So I think as far as, new treatment options, our patients are looking for, fast, easy and affordable access to those treatment options. So, we're regularly engaged. Well, I'm regularly engaged with the patient community. Support can't wait. So if somebody comes to me asking a question, whether it's about a treatment option or they want to talk to somebody that has got a similar journey, I make sure that that's our number one priority. And then we also regularly go out and ask our patient community, what do they want? What is missing? Do they need some more information? And then we look at that and prioritise and build our programs around that.
Thank you so much, Christine. Any other questions? Or statements even? No? So we're wrapping up then with our session, and I just wanted to say also, Aysem, I think that example that we had of collaboration that was quite a few years, right? Already looking back, I think 4 or 5, where we started at the clinical trial design stage and really focusing also, it's quite a complex trial on trying to get as much information as possible to a patient about different stages of that trial and understanding their consent as well. So we went beyond really, and we were collaborated throughout all those years. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's reading out the results at ESMO probably this year already. So I would like to close with one final tip or a piece of advice that you might share with our patient groups starting to work on engagement internally. So, Christine, you've shared some fantastic examples already, but one tip for our patient advocates in the room: working with patients, working with external stakeholders, working with industry. So you can all choose whichever area respective to your expertise. Just a short statement of a tip.
Yep. Okay. I think that the patient voice should be incorporated in all areas. And so whether that's clinical trials, whether that's information, whether that's research, whether it's even health professional education, I think we need to include the patient voice in all areas. The patients humanise the process. They make it real. And I think at the end of the day, we have to remember that we're treating a person, not a disease.
Thank you. Aysem?
Thank you, Alex. Actually, before the tip, it's great that you mentioned about this trial that we worked together with WBCPC. And the good news would be at ESMO during the presidential symposium. So if you're there, I ask you to take a look into that and see how the patient engagement actually helped shape a trial. The tip that I want to give, it's not easy to be an advocate. And more than likely, you will not be invited to the meetings where you will have a say. So don't be shy. Invite yourself sometimes. Show up. Be proactive. I mean, this is part of the advocacy. You need to be courageous about it. So I wish you good luck in your journeys.
Thank you. And Maddalena?
Nothing to add to that, but on maybe something around building new alliances. We know who are the stakeholders that are directly involved in healthcare processes, but there are new ones that are joining the table. So talking about healthcare investors, I'm talking about sustainability experts that are acknowledging, that are recognizing patient engagement and involvement of patient as a key asset for success. So let's try to build new bridges with those new stakeholders, because they will be, let's say, you 10 years ago. So.
Amazing. That's a beautiful way to close the session. So I would like to thank you all for your contributions, to sharing your experiences.